Have you ever noticed that the kindest people often seem to carry the deepest emotional scars? They give their time, their patience, and their trust without asking for much in return, yet they often become the ones carrying the greatest disappointment. Looking at moments like this, many people begin to wonder whether kindness is simply another word for weakness. But the truth is far more surprising, because kindness itself has never been the real problem. The answer begins with understanding something simple about the way every human brain naturally works. The human mind quickly adapts to anything that becomes consistent, even when that consistency comes from someone's endless generosity. Appreciation often fades into expectation so gradually that neither person notices when the change begins. Most people are not trying to exploit kindness. They are simply following habits that require the least emotional effort. When someone always gives without limits, people slowly stop noticing the effort and begin expecting the kindness instead. And once you understand this hidden psychological pattern, you can begin protecting both your kindness and your own peace of mind. It all begins with one simple habit that many kind people never realize they have. They believe that saying yes keeps relationships healthy, even when every yes quietly costs a piece of themselves. At first, people appreciate your generosity because it feels rare and comforting. But the human brain quickly adjusts to repeated experiences until they begin to feel completely normal. This psychological process is called adaptation, and it quietly changes how people perceive consistent kindness. The more available you become, the less extraordinary your generosity appears. Eventually, what once felt like a generous favor begins to feel like something people simply expect. That expectation is rarely spoken aloud, yet it quietly shapes how relationships begin to change. And when expectations grow without healthy boundaries, disappointment almost always follows. And this brings us to the most important question of all. Why do kind people find it so difficult to say no? For many kind people, saying no feels less like refusing a request and more like risking a relationship. Deep inside, they worry that one small refusal could change the way others see them forever. That fear is deeply connected to our natural desire for acceptance, because human beings have always depended on belonging to survive. Thousands of years of evolution taught our brains that being accepted often meant staying alive. Even today, our brains still react to social rejection as if it were a serious threat, although the world around us has changed. That is why disappointing someone for a single moment can sometimes feel more painful than exhausting yourself for weeks. Without realizing it, many kind people slowly become trapped inside a habit of constant self-sacrifice. The strange part is that the more they ignore their own needs, the more invisible those needs become to everyone else. People cannot respect boundaries they have never been shown, because invisible limits are impossible to recognize. And this is where kindness quietly begins to transform into something very different from the compassion it was always meant to be. Real kindness is a choice, but people-pleasing is often driven by fear. The difference between these two behaviors is subtle, yet it changes the entire direction of a person's life. A kind person helps because they genuinely want to, while a people-pleaser often helps because they feel they have no other choice. From the outside, these two people may look exactly the same, but inside they are motivated by completely different emotions. One is guided by compassion, while the other is quietly controlled by the fear of disappointing someone else. Fear has a remarkable ability to disguise itself as kindness, making unhealthy habits appear noble for many years. That is why so many generous people feel exhausted, without understanding where all of their energy has gone. They spend so much time protecting other people's feelings that they rarely stop to protect their own. Over time, emotional exhaustion becomes so familiar that it begins to feel like a normal part of being a good person. But true kindness should never require you to lose yourself in the process of caring for everyone else. Healthy kindness begins with one important realization that many people never learn. You can care deeply about others without becoming responsible for every emotion they experience. Compassion allows us to support people, but wisdom reminds us that every person must also carry their own responsibilities. The moment you begin carrying every burden for everyone around you, your own strength quietly starts to disappear. Eventually, you become so busy rescuing others that you forget how to care for yourself. Psychology teaches us that emotional burnout rarely happens overnight because it grows one small sacrifice at a time. Every unnecessary yes may seem harmless by itself, yet together they slowly reshape the life you are living. The strongest people are not those who always give the most, but those who know when giving becomes unhealthy. Setting healthy boundaries is not an act of selfishness because it protects the kindness that truly matters. And once you understand this, you begin to discover that protecting yourself is not the opposite of kindness, but one of its most important foundations. The truth is that people usually respect the limits you consistently demonstrate more than the sacrifices you silently make. Boundaries teach people how to treat you, while silence often teaches them that your limits can be ignored. At first, saying no may feel uncomfortable because your mind mistakes discomfort for danger. But discomfort is often the first sign that you are replacing old habits with healthier ones. Every healthy relationship allows room for honesty, including the honesty of saying that you cannot always give more. People who truly value you will learn to respect your boundaries instead of asking you to abandon them. Those who disappear simply because you protected your peace were never connected to you as deeply as you believed. Although losing certain relationships may hurt, losing yourself hurts far more and lasts much longer. The strongest kindness is not endless giving, but giving freely without abandoning your own well-being. And once you understand that truth, kindness begins to feel lighter because it is finally supported by self-respect instead of fear. So how can you remain a kind person without allowing that kindness to become your greatest weakness? The first step is learning to pause before automatically saying yes to every request that comes your way. A brief moment of reflection often reveals whether your answer comes from genuine generosity or quiet fear. Ask yourself one simple question before making a decision. Would I still choose this if I knew nobody would be disappointed by my answer? If the answer changes, then fear may be speaking louder than kindness. The second step is understanding that saying no to one request does not mean saying no to the person. Healthy relationships are strong enough to survive honest conversations and respectful boundaries. The people who truly care about you will adjust to your boundaries instead of demanding that you erase them. Surprisingly, the more you respect yourself, the easier it becomes for others to respect you as well. And once self-respect becomes your foundation, kindness is no longer something that others can easily take advantage of. There is one final lesson that transforms kindness from a source of pain into a source of quiet strength. Kindness should always be a gift that you choose to give, never a debt that you feel forced to repay. The moment generosity becomes an obligation, it quietly loses the freedom that made it meaningful in the first place. You do not have to prove your worth by constantly giving more than you can comfortably afford to give. Your value has never been measured by how much of yourself you are willing to sacrifice for everyone else. The healthiest relationships are built on mutual respect instead of one person carrying all the emotional weight. When both people protect each other's well-being, kindness becomes sustainable instead of exhausting. The strongest hearts are not those that never become tired, but those that know when it is time to rest and recover. Protecting your peace is not an act of selfishness, because a peaceful heart has far more kindness left to share. And with that understanding, we arrive at the final message that may completely change the way you see kindness forever. If there is one lesson to remember from today's journey, let it be this: never allow your desire to be loved to become stronger than your responsibility to care for yourself. The people who truly belong in your life will never require you to abandon your own well-being just to keep them comfortable. Those who respect your boundaries are often the very people who deserve your kindness the most. Kindness becomes truly powerful when it is guided by wisdom instead of fear. You do not have to become colder to protect your heart, because wisdom can accomplish what fear never could. Continue being kind, continue being compassionate, but never forget that your own peace deserves the same protection you offer to everyone else. In the end, the kindest person you will ever meet should also be the person you become for yourself. If this message helped you see kindness from a different perspective, I hope you will carry it with you long after this video ends. Thank you for spending these moments with me, and remember, true kindness is not measured by how much you sacrifice, but by